Hello, people. We are back again, and after quite a while, I must say, we missed you. Did you miss us, guys? Okay, today I have with me Chinmay Rastogi, and I'll let him introduce himself to you guys. Chinmay, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi guys. About myself, I'm actually someone who wanted to be a lot of things. Like when I was a kid, like everybody wants to be 10,000 different things, and that's what I wanted to be. So many different things. So I never really knew what I wanted to be in like one particular thing. I wanted to be so many different things. But then I started growing up, like at least physically. I don't know about mentally. So by the time I graduated from my school, I still didn't have any clarity. Like this is my field of work. I knew what I didn't want to do. So like any kid of my age at the time, I went into an engineering college because that's our go-to option. And that's the place where we actually find ourselves. And that's what happened with me. When I was in my second year of my computer science degree at Manipal, at MIT, MIT, so that's when I started writing for the first time in my life. I'd always been a very voracious reader. I'd grown up reading all kinds of novels. I started with Sherlock Holmes, which I always have a very special place in my heart for. So in my second year of college, I first wrote something, and that was my first novel, Chasing Sanity. And that's the first time I had some sort of relatability. Like I could feel something that I never felt before, like a kind of belonging. For before that day, I'd always known what I don't want to do, and that was the first time I kind of knew what I had to do. Like this is something that I can really do, and that's what makes me happy. So that's the day I realized that I want to be a writer.
Okay, so what are you doing these days?
So these days I'm still learning to be a good writer, as good a writer as I can be, and I'm here. I'm in a grad school, learning the trade of writing at Sarah Lawrence College, and I'm using whatever I learn to write on a daily basis to write. I'm writing short stories because I'm starting to think that if you can say a lot in just a few words, that stays with people for a longer time. It's weird how
That's
that
true.
works, but
That's true. I feel it's much difficult, much more difficult to write short stories than novellas because in that few words you have to pack in everything that we usually get from a novel.
exactly.
So you told us that you started writing while you were doing your engineering,
hmm
and your first book was Chasing Sanity. So tell us about how that came along while in engineering.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that was something of my, I mean, the kind of thoughts that we had in that age group, because that was more like a murder mystery. And when you're a teenager, you have all those weird ideas in your head. So I think it was more about my age at the time than the atmosphere in my college, which was rather supportive and really vibrant in Manipal. I mean, that's one of the things I really remember about that college. So that's when I just started writing a novel. I mean, I had all these crazy ideas, and I just thought, well, I have so much time on my hands, so let's give it a shot.
I keep hoping people would say that they realize they can write good fiction while attempting their examination papers because that's when I've done my best fiction works.
I don't know about good
so,
fiction. It was fiction, but I'm still finding my way towards good fiction.
so that was Chasing Sanity, and then you have written another book called Family Feud. That sounds fun. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Family Feud was not really a book. It was just a short story, and that was the first thing I ever wrote as a professional writing assignment. So after I graduated from Manipal, after that I spent a few years freelancing as a writer because
Okay.
it's difficult to support yourself if you want to choose this line of work.
Mhm.
So I freelanced as a writer, and that was one of the projects that I had to do for a client. And actually, that
Okay.
was the first time I had the opportunity to write a humor story, a funny story.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, this was a new experience for me, but again, something that really opened doors for me because again,
Okay.
I had some kind of idea that this writing it feels I feel better about this kind of writing than the other kinds of writing I've done because worked on other projects as well for clients.
Mhm.
Some of them were like romance stories, a few of them were horror stories, a couple of them were fantasy stories as well, fantasy and sci-fi, a bit more like The Other Side Chronicles. This was after I wrote this novel, The Other Side Chronicles. This was after The Other Side Chronicles. So I'd learned
Okay.
a few things about fantasy writing as well. But humor story, that's when I had a special place for humor story in my heart. And I still carry that place.
So let's talk about the other side chronicles, the impending war. That's a intriguing name.
Yep,
So tell us
there
about
it is.
it. Yeah, yeah, that's the cover. Can you bring it closer to the
All
camera
right,
so that we
sure.
can all see the cover? Yeah, that's a quite a nice cover.
Yes, it
So the
is.
title, from the title and the cover itself, plus the blurb, it seems like quite an intriguing story. Tell us about it.
So, I mean, as a cover, like by looking at the cover, you get some sort of an idea that something is going to happen. Like there's this person who is maybe going to a different place or to a different world, and that's what this story is mainly about. It's about this other world which is connected to our own world and which is facing an impending war, and how our world is going to face repercussions from for this war, even though it's happening in a different world. It's our world who's going to pay the price for that. And the
Okay.
and the key for preventing this impending war is this protagonist, the person you see on the cover.
Okay. So it seems like a bit of fantasy thrown in with lots of adventure. So
Mhm.
how is this book different from the others in the genre nowadays that we read?
It's a bit different in that even though it is set in a different world and it takes place for the most part in a different world, it's more about our world. That's what
Mhm.
it's about. Because when you create a new world, you always want to just stay in that world, even the characters, even the writer himself. You just want to lose yourself in that world, in all the magical elements of the world, how it's so different, because we always want to kind of project ourselves how we wanted our world to be. And it's very simple to have those feelings and be affected by those feelings and have those feelings create your own world, have a big say in how you create your new world. But this book is more about how our world is more important. I mean, it's important to stay rooted to our own origins, to our own roots. It's kind of how we feel about our homes because when things really matter, we have that special place in for our home. And that's what it's about. Be it the protagonist, I mean, both the characters, both the central characters in the novel. So they are people who are originally from this world, I mean, actually from India, from different parts of India. And even though they spend so much time in this other side, the other side, they they always have their hometowns in their hearts and in their minds. They are always thinking about the people who are waiting for them and the people they want to save. So it's more about staying true to your origins, to your roots, and just having that just having that feeling intact.
You know what I'm finding very intriguing is the fact that when we read fantasy, it's a whole new world,
Hmm.
completely different world. We let go of our reality and walk into a fantastical world where we are expecting magical things and elements there. But in your book, it seems like there is a hook back to our reality at the same time,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, how do you balance that while you are writing a new world?
Hmm.
You have to keep it relatable. Even the fantastical world has to be relatable to your readers, right?
Yes, it is.
And to have for that world to have a hook back to our reality, how do you maintain the balance there as at the same time keeping it all relatable and easy for readers to grasp for?
Well, I think that's sort of a requirement for fantasy writing or world building. So you can have a very beautiful world that you can see in your head, but putting that on paper is the first challenge. If you can transmit your ideas on paper. And the bigger challenge is for people to be able to grasp that idea. Now, if you're creating something totally out of thin air, people can't really see that because you can see that in your head, But people can't really see that unless you use ideas and objects which people know, which people see around them every day. If somehow you show those objects and those ideas in a different light, so it's like people are familiar with those concepts, but you're just showing them in a different way. So it might sound familiar at the same time, but also new because although people can relate to that, you're showing more of a certain object, a certain idea. So it opens the door for creating something more, for showing something which people might miss out on. And once that happens, there's the possibility for so much more. You can create an entire world out of so much, out of a tiny object. Actually, you go down the rabbit
So
hole with Alice in Wonderland, and there's an entire world.
yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about the protagonist, because yes, along with the plot setting,
Hmm.
protagonist also, helps you uh, entertain your readers.
Yeah, I don't know if the protagonist would entertain the reader because she's not having the best life, to be honest. So the protagonist is called Tina. She is a 17-year-old girl who belongs to Kolkata, and the book opens with her life as somebody who has been diagnosed with brain cancer. She has a tumor in her brain. So life is not going well for her, and with each, I mean, as we go deeper into the book, things aren't really going well because her condition is not really improving. It's going from bad to worse. And if that was not enough for her, like her regular hospital visits, something which she really hates, something which I don't think anyone really likes visiting the hospital, not even the people who work there, to be honest. So when that is
Yeah,
taking
but
place,
that is one of the elements I think will help readers connect with Tina,
yeah, that's something that
if
helped
not
me
the
connect
brain
with her.
cancer.
Yeah. If I hope not the brain cancer. I hope not. Yeah.
So
So when
tell
she
us
is
about,
having a hard
yeah.
time coping with life, coping with the brain tumor, that's when the ball is dropped on her that there's this entire other world that she has been to, but she has no memory of, and how she is the key figure in in the hopes for preventing a war in that world. Now she is somebody who doesn't really care about this other side because she's like, I have enough on my plate. I don't want this entire nonsense. But then she realizes that if this war does take place, then everything that she knows, everything that is home for her, everything that she has any affinity for, any love for, all those things will get annihilated if this war takes place. So even though she doesn't really care about that world, she has to prevent a war. She has to try and understand how she, somebody who has no idea what this world is about, who has no idea why people are taking her, treating her as somebody who is maybe one of the world leaders. That's the kind of importance that she's shown in this other side. Now, she's trying to
Okay.
cope with a lot of different things in a new world, in a new setting, meeting all these new people. And then there's this entire debacle about how she is the central character in this entire fiasco. And she has to figure out things on her own because people expect a lot from her and she has no idea what's happening, what's going to happen. She just has a hope that maybe something can happen, maybe some miracle can happen, and this war doesn't take place, and her parents back home, and everything, her friends, all the people that she has any love for, they can just they cannot like vanish into thin air because of this war.
It, in some ways, the unreluctant heroes are the best ones. End of the day, I feel.
Yeah, because they never really treat themselves as heroes. They're trying their
Yes.
hardest not to be a hero, to get out of the spotlight as much as possible.
So now you have been through the publishing process three times, right? What is the most nerve-wracking part of it for you? Is it the first draft? Is it the editing? Finding a publisher? Marketing?
Well, I think it goes from the way the order that you mentioned these things, the difficulty actually rises. Writing the first draft is actually the best part because what writer doesn't like writing? I mean, we lose ourselves in the process. I lose the sense of time when I'm writing. I mean, I think that only
Mhm.
2 minutes have passed. Well, in reality, more than 2 hours have passed.
Mhm.
That's one of the best things I have about this career because I just lose the sense of time whenever I'm
Mhm.
writing about anything. So that's always that can never be a burden. That's always my happy time.
Mhm.
Then after I'm done writing, that's when the actual work begins. Finding a publisher. Oh my God, that takes forever. I mean, for the other side chronicles, I mean, I had a good agent with the book Bakers, Suhail Mathur of
Mhm.
the book Bakers. He really did help me a lot for that. And after a few months, he got me in touch with Mr. Soni, with Mr. Vishal Soni of Vishwakarma Publications. And
Mhm.
they seemed a very good fit for me because they were very professional for them from the beginning, and
Mhm.
they were really helpful because even though they have been in the business for so long, they knew that how it can be a bit intimidating for someone who is not that familiar with it. Even though I had some background, I had some knowledge of the publishing industry because of my experience with Chasing Sanity. I wasn't really like a veteran of the field. So I was still making my way and I had so many different questions. And they were always very approachable. Whenever I had some doubts that I wanted to get clarified, or if I had some issues that I want to bring to their notice, they were always very receptive, and they always tried to make it as as good for me as possible.
Okay, so we have quite a few live viewers with us now, so I'll just say hi to them. Hi, Daksha, Karthik, Kriti, and we have a comment from Rita Gupta.
Hmm.
Says, "I'm here."
And
So
I'm
hi,
glad that you're
Rita.
here.
So yeah, let's take this moment, take a moment, and let everybody know if you are watching us live. If you have any questions that you want to shoot at Chinmay, please feel free, and we'll get you an answer from.
And
So it seems like
please
it
try not
seems like
to embarrass me with your questions.
uh, if they are friends and family,
they
there are
are
no guarantees.
they
So
are friends and families. That's why I said that.
so we can maybe write Family Feud Part Two from that.
You never know. Probably.
Yeah, so throw those embarrassing questions so that you can get into his next book. Yeah, so it seems like you have had quite a pleasant experience, publishing experience, but it's not all that glamorous, is it? So
Oh
let's
no, it
get down
isn't.
to the real picture, and for let's tell our readers and aspiring writers, especially, that there are bound to be some hurdles,
Not
but
some.
you
Like
cannot.
every
Yeah.
stage of the process, it has to be difficult. It's going to be difficult.
So how do they keep going? What what kept you going?
I think treating this career as a profession and not just a hobby, and just removing that romantic idea from your head that you write a novel and overnight it's going to be the bestseller of your generation. I mean, it's very easy to see that. It's very easy to imagine that. You always see that in movies. The first time someone wrote a book, it turns out to be the best thing that anyone has ever written. I mean, you might have that talent, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting anyone down. But you have to be grounded, you have to be humble, and most importantly, you have to treat writing as a profession. You can't expect to write a first draft of any story and that first draft to be perfect. You have to be willing to put in the hours and edit it rigorously, like go through 10 rounds of editing, 15 rounds of editing, have people who can give you some
I'm
feedback on your
so
writing.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Let's elaborate a bit on that, because uh, we cannot emphasize enough on editing, self-editing, and getting a professional editor, and getting opinions from people who are friends and family, but are very true to it when it comes to giving you feedback.
Yes, that's priceless for any writer. I mean, I'm really lucky to have such loving and supporting parents because when I made this switch from being an engineering student to being a writer, I mean, that's a big shift.
Mhm.
And I had to do some explanation to do, like why I want to make this shift. but they were really receptive of my ideas, and they have been so supportive. I don't think I would have been able to make the switch without their support. But apart from that, you need to have uh, a, a group of readers. Even if you don't have a group of readers, just go on different online forums. You can always find people who are willing to give you feedback on your work. And you have to take that with a pinch of salt because not all of them can be as helpful as you want them to be. But if you're willing to see any kind of positivity in their comments, like take even with all the bad comments that they are giving you, maybe they're coming from a bad place, maybe they've had a bad day. But if you can just sift through all of that and see what really matters, what can help your writing, what can help you see some of the flaws that you didn't see because you were so close to the work, and that can really help you as a writer. Not just as a writer, to be honest, but as a person, because it is an exercise in being humble, and that's really important, especially as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, readers are readers after all. They have their own preferences and biases.
Hmm.
So, yes, you cannot take 100% of it. Like, for example, if I am not example, I'm a thriller lover.
Hmm.
So, if I'm given a non-fiction to read and give my opinion on, I won't be 100% right on it,
Hmm.
right? So, yeah, that is there. But at the same time, if I say that, okay, this paragraph feels out of place, maybe you can put it somewhere else, or maybe this doesn't feel as useful, okay, you can get this out of the book. That may be useful rather than if I'm saying, yeah, a full book is boring. So those filters are needed, but then end of the day, I think readers can give you a good feedback because end of the day, the book is going to be in their hands only.
Yes, I mean, you need to have some people who can be your support as well as give you some feedback. So that's really important. And treating it as a profession, I can't really, whenever somebody asks me, like, how do you manage, I mean, how do you have a life of writer? How do you live as a writer? Like,
Mhm.
you have to put in the hours every day. It's not something that you can just think that, okay, I don't feel inspired today, so I'm just waiting for my inspiration. And when I feel have that inspiration, then things will just, click like that. That happens, but once in a blue moon, honestly. Unless you're willing to put in the hours and treat it as a profession, write something every day, is going to be a very difficult time. So you have to make sure that you always stay true to your word and always stay true to the profession. And if you don't feel that strongly about it, it's fine. You can always back out at the end.
Uh, Daksha Marothia says, proud of you with a hug emoji.
What's that? I didn't really hear you.
Daksha Marothia says, proud of you with a hug emoji.
Thank you. I wish I could hug you back.
So, you have written quite a wide variety of genres till now. So,
Mhm.
how would you categorize your kind of writing?
Up until now, I've been like all over the place. I've been I've been writing all kinds of stories, but for the past few months, I've been more into writing humor stories, humor with a bit of irony, having those two things in balance. I mean, showing all the. I mean, we are living in a very strange world these days. Things are just. I can't.
Gone
I
up.
have no words for what's
Yeah,
happening these days.
stumped.
Exactly, and it's after a certain point you just realize that it's really absurd. I mean, you couldn't really have imagined the way things have gone downhill over the past decades or past couple of decades. And if you can't see the humor in that, I mean, the absurdity in all the situations that you see around you every day, then it's difficult to cope up with all the things. And that's the kind of writing I do because if you can't see the funny side of it, it's going to get difficult.
Mhm. So, I was hoping that you will say that you are going to continue writing fantasy fiction because the other side Chronicle seems to be just the first installment in a series. So, when do you plan to continue writing fantasy fiction and continue this series?
And yeah, that was the plan in the beginning. But like I said, at the moment, I'm more inclined towards writing short stories. I mean, learning the art of saying a lot more in just a few words. And I mean, that can be of help no matter what kind of work you do. I mean, even as a novelist, you can say so much more in like just 100 pages. You don't need to write like 1,000 page saga. So as of now, this project is on hold because I have a lot of projects for my writing school as well at Sarah Lawrence. So that's going to take some of my time, like another year or so. But I don't know. I mean, I have this one book in my hand, and I have the idea for the next two parts because this was supposed to be a trilogy. So I had that clarity in my head that I know where I wanted to go with this story. It's just in my head at the moment. It's not on paper. So I don't know if it comes on paper, and if it comes on paper, I don't know if it comes like in this physical, tangible object. That's the biggest challenge. So let's see. I'm hopeful.
So, what are you planning to do next other than your projects? I hope we get to see much more, many more books from you. So,
So do
what's
I.
next? What can we expect? Please give us some idea. What and when can we expect the next one?
I can say what, I can't say when because there's no
Yeah,
saying how long it can take. I mean, it
it's
can be.
creative, right? And plus, you have your course to
And the course is
concentrate
all
on.
about writing, so that's only going to help me because it's a writing school, and that's only going to be of huge aid to me in my career as a writer. But I'm going to continue writing short stories and humor stories for a while, and maybe I don't know if I can maybe put those in a collection, those short stories that I'm working on these days. That would be something really fascinating because I feel very strongly about the kind of writing I'm doing, having some humor in in the writing, and having all these absurd ideas. But still, when you have a story in which all the characters are in a very absurd and strange situation, but somehow they are not aware that how preposterous their condition is. For an outsider, it's very easy to see that how can you function in this kind of a world, in this kind of a scenario. But for the people, it's like because they're conditioned in such a way ever since they were born. That's the kind of world we live in. I mean, if you had someone from 50 years ago just time travel to this world now, I mean, they'd lose their minds. Not just because of the technology, but because of the change in people's attitudes, in their thinking.
Yeah.
And there has been a sharp decline of moral values as well. I mean, I can't really just say just the last 50 years. That's been happening like since forever. So
So, uh, what's the one? Okay, we have two more comments here from Pratik.
I did see.
Says, yeah, says great stuff, and Kriti says eager for your next work. So are we. So I hope that if nothing else, it's at least that collection of short stories, especially because it seems to be very relevant to the society that we are living in, and we could do with that right now, right about now. So, any
Exactly.
advices like now that you have gone through and we have discussed about treating this as a profession and the importance of editing, but still, if there is one piece of advice you would like to give to the people who are uh, planning to take the leap into this industry, what would that be?
I mean, if you want to be a writer, you have to understand that every day is a Sunday and every day is a Monday. So you can write all day, or you can just lay back on your sofa and just watch which of Netflix series. Or I mean, that's fine. If you want to relax and decompress, that's perfectly fine. But if that's your excuse and you want to just wait for inspiration, it's not going to happen. I can't stress it enough how important it is to treat any sort of art, not just writing, any sort of art. You have to treat it as a profession. You have to be industrious in your work. Oh, my laptop is running low on battery.
Okay, so quickly, anything else that you would like your readers to know about you and your book?
Well, I have a great love for language. I mean, that's why I went into this profession. Just like one of the characters in the novel, I also like learning new languages.
How
So,
many do you know?
I mean, after Hindi and English, I have some command over Japanese, and I'm also learning Spanish these days. That's what I
Okay,
continue doing, plan to continue doing as well. I mean, apart from writing, I want to pick up more and more languages so I can read the literature from like all parts of the world, not in their
that's
translated forms, but in their original
yeah,
form.
the original forms. Yeah, I wish I had that knack for languages because there are so many translated books that I've read, and I've always wonder what got lost in the translation.
Exactly. That is, I mean, that also actually attracts me towards the industry of translating because making sure that the essence of the work is not lost. Because
Mhm.
every language has its own idiosyncrasies. There's only certain things that you can translate. Every language has certain words which you can maybe have the same meaning, but you can't really have
But
the same
it's
effect.
just not the same. Yes, it's just not the same because I read English translations of my mother tongue books in my
Mhm.
mother tongue, and I was like, no, I couldn't
Exactly.
go
Yeah.
beyond the first chapter, and I was like, let me go back and read the original one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be lovely. That's actually lovely. I'm already imagining being able to read your, Spanish and Japanese literature.
I hope so that I hope that happens soon. It will happen one day, I'm sure, but I hope soon.
So maybe you can pick up translated works and make the comparisons and start a YouTube channel on that.
I don't know about that.
Okay, there's a question from Mukesh Srivastava.
Hmm.
Shall I read the same genre I wish to write?
Yes, I mean it will be of some help to you because reading something written by someone else can show you different perspectives, even if those ideas quite can be quite similar to yours. Can always someone else's perspective always helps. But just limiting yourself to any one kind of writing, I think that is a little limiting because if you just take some distance from your profession for some time, I mean, you just take a step back and see the world, like see other things which are around your line of thought, then that can always help in your process.
Yeah, I mean, don't mind me jumping in. I know Mukesh isn't really asking me, but yeah. So if you're planning to, for example, if you're planning to write fantasy, of course you should read other fantasies to see how world setups are being written. But at the same time, you should also read other genres because there are authors who can teach you sentence construction, simple as that.
Exactly. Yes.
So read whatever you want to read.
Yeah, but
Read a lot,
reading
Mukesh.
is that's the main thing.
Read,
Read as much as you
yeah,
can.
yeah. So that was good having you. Acha, Arun Abir says, good going, Chinmay.
Thank you.
So it was fun having you here, Chinmay. I just truly wish you all the success. I wish that get to see that collection very soon, and I'm sure
Hmm.
that you'll do just great ahead. I really wish you all the best.
Thank you
And
so much
thank
for
you
your
for
kind words.
taking out time to join us and share your story, your journey with us.
Thank you for having me here. I've had a great
Okay,
time. Thank you so much for your time.
you have a great day.
Have a great day.
And
And
people,
thank you everyone who was able to join me. It means a lot to
yes,
me.
friends and family, I'm a little bit disappointed that you didn't ask some embarrassing questions that would have guaranteed family feud too. But in the meantime, you can see Chinmay's book link in the description of this video. Go ahead, click on that link and buy the book today. Right,
Yes,
Chinmay?
please. Buy it today. Buy it right now.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, and maybe get it signed by Chinmay if you would
Of
happen to meet
course.
him next time, or at the next family gathering.
If I see you holding my book, I'm going to make sure that I sneak in my signatures anyhow. I'm very sneaky that way.
Oh, then see, go get it, get the book. Yeah, show the. We
Yes,
didn't see the back yet. Please show the other side also. The
the
back,
other side
yeah,
of the other side.
yeah, other side of the other side.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the back.
Okay, so that's the book, people, that you need to go and buy right now. And we'll see you again soon.
I hope so.